Well, hello everybody. It is Joe from the Strange Voyage Files. It is October 30th, 2025, and see from my background, I'm going to be talking about the Tony Martin era of Sabbath. This is not going to be a long, drawn out thing. I'm going to do that in a future video. This one is my top 10 Sabbath songs from the Tony Martin era. Little talk a little bit about this because the Tony Martin era definitely got a revival, if you will, a rejuvenation, however you want to call it, probably around the beginning of the new millennium. Um, the late 90s and into the early 2000s. That's the era of everybody kind of reuniting. Black Sabbath reunites, Kiss reunites. Um, Iron Maiden gets back together in 2000. Judas Priest gets back together. All our bands kind of get back together. And when that happens, at least for Sabbath, the whole catalog is kind of revitalized. Now, let's just get something straight. If you're not a big Sabbath fan, you don't know anything about the Tony Martin era. And that just is the truth. A lot of people who love Sabbath, went from the Tony Martin era being the dark side of Sabbath, the redheaded stepchild, if you will, of Black Sabbath, to the forgotten era of Sabbath, to the worst era of Sabbath, and it's been revitalized, which is rightfully so. There's some good albums in the Tony Martin era, and it got slammed way too much. But again, we kind of got to we can shift to the whole other side where now it's all great, which it's not. Um, you know, it's always been universally agreed upon by I shouldn't say but by most people that Headless Cross is the great album out of all of them. And then depending on who you talk to, Tear usually is considered a good album, okay album. Then the rest of them can go anywhere. But very forgettable. And if you're not a Black Sabbath fan, you don't know who Tony Martin is. You don't know what Cross Purposes is. You don't know what Forbidden is. You don't know what Tear is. You may have heard of Headless Cross. And if you are probably 50 and older, depending on what your view was, Eternal Idol was either the final nail in the coffin for you with Sabbath, or you were already gone. And you heard of Eternal Idol, may have heard a few songs, and you were like, this sucks, forget about it. So the Tony Martin era definitely, is remembered more fondly, especially with Anu Mundi, the box set that came out with everything except for Eternal Idol. Great remasters, just a beautiful job on that box set. I got it on vinyl and on CD. Wish I would have bought a couple extra copies just to leave in the packaging. But, it is what it is. This rose-colored glasses, I've talked about this where people look back on rose-colored glasses. And I'm not going to go into a debate into, is this album good? Is this album not good? But for decades, for almost 20 years, a lot of people thought this era was just garbage, really. And it really has been like the past 10 years where it's been pulled out of the trash. And I hate to say that because, again, I didn't think the Tony Martin era was the forgettable era. I love Headless Cross. I put Headless Cross up against some of the greatest Sabbath albums. Tear is an enjoyable album too. The other three, track here and there for two of them. There is one album on this list that is not even recognized. There's no track. There is one Sabbath album, and if you've seen my prior videos, you know what it is. It's not Forbidden. Cross Purposes is not even represented. Not even Evil Eye. Not even Eddie Van Halen, in my opinion, could save that album. It is horrible. Cross of Thorns, I think, is the song. That's how and I've tried listening to that album. It's awful. It is god awful. I hate that album. It's not one I'll ever get into. I'm going to keep giving Eternal Idol a try. I'm going to keep giving Born Again a try. I'm done with Cross Purposes. There's just no way it's going to happen. But again, Headless Cross, phenomenal album. Tear's a good album. I listen to Tear probably, 3-4 times a year. So, that does say something versus, something like Sabotage that I'll listen, listen to that a couple times a week. So, but all right. Yeah, again, no shock if you are a Cross Purposes fan. You probably want to just turn the video off now. So, at number 10, one that I always did like, but the 10 spot is perfect for it. Off Forbidden, Get a Grip. I always thought it was a good song. I always thought that Cozy Powell's drumming in the song was good. And I'm going off the original album. I'm not doing the remix albums either. I'm going off of what I always thought. So Get a Grip is a good song. It is definitely not one I turn off. The next one off of Tear, the Sabbath Stones. A favorite. One that usually is, when we talk about this era, it comes up when we talk about Tear. Most people say the Sabbath Stones. Great song. Another one off Tear, Valhalla. Just a fun, rockin', got a great melody. Absolutely love Valhalla. Phenomenal song. That one's number 8. Number 7, flipping over to the one that I think is pretty much a perfect album, Headless Cross, Devil and Daughter. Again, great melody, great rhythm. I love Devil and Daughter. It comes in at number 7. We're going to shoot it back to Tear with the one that most people think is the best song off the album. Rightfully so. It is very Sabbath sounding. It is awesome. Anu Mundi. Not the best song off that album, but a great song. Number 6 is Anu Mundi. And I know I'm probably going to get, Ancient Warriors not on my list, blah, 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 but I'm going to get a lot of heat possibly because there's only one song on my list from The Eternal Idol. I don't like that album. I just don't like that album. But the single, The Shining, is awesome. Shining comes in at number 5. That is a great song. It's an album that even if you read Tony's book, Iron Man, they're in Montserrat. I'm probably saying it wrong. Cocaine. They're just coked out of their minds. It's a mess. And obviously with the production of, so many people are in and out of that album. You can see why that one is a mess. There are a lot of people that love The Eternal Idol. I grew up, I remember everybody hated that album. I remember my buddy's brother's friend, my buddy's older brothers, and their friends were the ones that got him into metal, who got me into metal. And I remember talking to this guy who was one of the older brother crowd, and he's like, I was talking about Sabbath albums. I'm like, I think I'm going to get Eternal Idol. And he's like, it's garbage. That album wouldn't even throw in a dumpster to insult the dumpster. And I don't remember anybody talking well of, and that's when they lost their contract with Warner Brothers. So the album doesn't go over well. People love it now. That's great. I'm going to still give Eternal Idol tries. I'm going to still give Born Again tries. I am anxiously awaiting for a remix of Born Again because I do think it sounds like garbage. I think the first Iron Maiden album sounds awesome. I think Kill 'Em All, awesome. Randy hated it. Diary of a Madman mix, awesome. Absolutely think I listened to Born Again. It sounds like it was a demo. So I'm hoping when it's remixed, because it's finally going to happen. Tony found the masters, and they're doing that now. I am praying to God that I love that album. I want to love these albums. Trust me, never going to happen with Cross Purposes. Shining's number 5. Great song. Another one. Awesome song. Awesome. Best song by far off the album. Title track, Forbidden. That song is the shining star on that album. That album, between that and Get a Grip, those are the two good songs. There are a few others that are tolerable. Illusion of Power isn't bad. Even the single, Can't Get Close Enough, I think that's the one on there. Yeah, something like that. It's not horrible. Couple others. It's not an album I visit by any means. That's one I listen to maybe once a year. But Forbidden, I will listen to the song Forbidden on its own because it is unbelievable. I love Forbidden. Sounds like something that would have been on Headless Cross. Man, whatever vibe they had going on when they wrote Forbidden, I wish they could have kept that going for the rest of the album. I gotta listen to Tony Iommi mix again. I listened to it when I first got it, and I do know that it was better than the original album. Never listened to it again. But Forbidden's number 4, solid 4. Number 3, man, if there's any song that comes close to my favorite one on Headless Cross, it is Black Moon. I love Black Moon. That's a song I can listen to on a loop over and over and over. It kills me that IRS Records screwed up the promotion of that album. There could have been multiple singles: Headless Cross, Black Moon, Devil and Daughter, Killing the Spirit World, Nightway. I mean, there could have been a ton of singles off that album. There could have easily been 5 decent, in my opinion, 3 great singles and 2 good singles off that album. And IRS Records dropped the ball horribly. Tony Iommi tells a story in his book of him and Cozy Powell going to a record store, I think in Canada, and they couldn't find the album. And that was happening across North America. I've told the story. I could only find it as an import. Now, there were U.S. versions, obviously, but I don't think there were too many copies distributed. And at that point, you had to get them in an import. So it was just stupid. Man, that aggravates me because that album should have been a monster comeback for them. It definitely, I love Ozzy, man, and I love No Rest for the Wicked. Definitely rivals No Rest for the Wicked, without a doubt. Black Moon rules. That's number 3. Number 2, by far the best song off Tear. One of the best Sabbath songs of the era. One of the best Sabbath songs. This one is reminiscent in a vein of Sabotage. I said Sabotage earlier. It definitely gives me the vibe of a Sabotage type album. Jerusalem. That song, from the second I heard that song, I loved it. It is powerful. Tony Martin sounds awesome. Iommi, of course, sounds unbelievable. It is a powerhouse. It is epic. It is everything a Sabbath song should be. Again, melody, great. I think Jerusalem should have been the lead-off single instead of Feels Good to Me, whatever the stupid ballad was. If Jerusalem would have been the lead-off single, Tear would have sold a lot more. It would have been more noticeable. Jerusalem, one of the best Sabbath songs around. All eras. And again, that's number 2. Number 1, no shock, Headless Cross. Headless Cross easily is up there with any Ozzy era, any Dio era. Again, remember seeing that video, man. And it came out, again, IRS Records so screwed up with Headless Cross. Just out of nowhere, hey, Sabbath, and I think it was Tony Iommi and Cozy Powell that were on Headbangers Ball. I think you can find it on YouTube. They're introducing, hey, here's our new single, Headless Cross. You're like, new single? What? That Sabbath has a new album? What's going on? And I was just blown away. The gothic, broken down church, the thunderous riffs, everything came together for that song and that album. It is a crime that it drives me nuts that IRS Records screwed that up. It sucks too, because had Warner, and I get it, guys, we sit here and no matter what you say, Born Again and The Eternal Idol were flops. Absolute flops. Seventh Star was as well. You have those 3 albums, and I think Seventh Star is a good album. Definitely out of those 3, Seventh Star rocks. Got a couple clunkers on there, but it's overall Seventh Star I've always enjoyed. But you look at it from Warner Brothers' perspectives, you can't argue with them. You have 3 albums that are just go nowhere. Born Again starts off strong, especially in England and a bit in the United States. Of course, you have Ian, so there's that interest, and then goes nowhere. Absolutely just doesn't sell. Then you have Seventh Star and Eternal Idol that just totally flop. I get it, but man, if Warner Brothers would have stuck around for one more album, and Sabbath had the power of Warner Brothers to promote Headless Cross. I think you would have seen Sabbath back in arenas. What are you gonna do? Obviously, number one is Headless Cross. Again, for what the Tony Martin era was, you have one pretty much perfect album, one really great album. Forbidden has a few good tracks on it, and in my opinion, two garbage albums. Again, I'm not gonna give up on Eternal Idol. Cross Purposes sucks. Horrible. Cardinal Sin. I'm thinking of all these songs. Cardinal Sin, they all are terrible. I know people love it. God bless. I'd rather have people like an album than not. But for me, Cross Purposes is absolutely brutal. Eternal Idol, there's other songs like Ancient Word. They're listenable. Nothing I go after, though. So, all right. Well, let me know what you think in the comment. Like, subscribe, all that crap. And put your list in the comments. Let's see what you guys think. All right. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Bye.